specifically pointed to Lisa in the last committee meeting. So anyway,
good morning. I'd like to call this meeting to order at 10:01 a.m. And just first, we want to welcome our board members who are joining us virtually. And as required, you could just state high-level reason as to why you're joining virtually, and it could simply be distance, but we'll let you state that. And I'll just start with Lisa.
It's a long story, but I'll just say distance for now to spare you.
Okay. Carol?
Same. Long story, but now we'll say distance.
Okay. And Emma?
Good morning, all. Mine is just due to distance.
Thank you. Thank you for joining us. And so due to the fact that we have 3 appointees, two that didn't accept reappointment, one that their term couldn't accept the reappointment, and those haven't been reappointed, we barely failed to meet quorum. So I will be following up later via Jennifer with a doodle poll or however you want to go about it so that we can meet virtually and approve the items that needed to be approved today, as well as the ability to go into closed session. So we will not be voting on anything today. That's the long story there, the short story of the long story. So I'm going to skip past the minute approval and then just go straight into today's meeting flow. So we will continue to include staff in our meetings as previous chair Lisa implemented, and really just looking for more opportunities to include staff and appreciate them sharing their time on a Saturday with us so that we can hear stories directly from the folks that are living them every day here at the museum and give us the ability as board members to share that with our legislator, share that with potential funder, and just be able to really internalize what they're telling us and be able to share that. And then, of course, ask them questions if we have any. And so the first one, but before I introduce Dr. Pritchard, I do want to note that we just had a great Dino Festival 2-day event here. And I just want to thank the entire staff for over a year of planning that made this Dino Festival super successful. From admissions, hands-on events, all 3 floors were in use, and the outdoor pavilion was in use, the parking lot was in use, every space was in use. Specifically want to thank Tim and the facilities and maintenance crew, Christy and the education staff and all the volunteers that coordinated with microscopes and all the things. Finance communications was on point both days and leading up to the event to get folks coming from hours away and multiple stages to be shared later. Ben and the research part, so Ben manned the t-shirt table like a champ. It sold out. It was a hot ticket item, ran the drone, but then we had the scientists. And one of the greatest questions I heard was from a 5-year-old who asked Dr. Pritchard, how did you get this fossil? Did you kill the dinosaur? The question, great. I hadn't thought about it. Great question. No, we did not. And then thanks to Jonathan and all the administrative staff for running tables and encouraging folks to remember. So with that, I'm going to turn this over to Dr. Pritchard for a deep dive on the Wyoming dinosaur data.
thank you. Yeah. Yes. Make sure you use the clicker and you can go over here. So you're okay.
I've only got the one slide because I figured, with the time I was,
but still come over here so you're part of the mic.
Oh, right. I see what you mean. So where you were, or
yes.
Great.
Thanks. Um, yeah, so I was asked to kind of give a 2-minute introduction to myself and what I do here at the museum, and then talk about the major initiatives we have wrapping up right now. My name is Dr. Adam Pritchard. I'm the Associate Curator of Paleontology here at the BMNH. I've been here since late 2019. Was a dinosaur kid growing up that just never ended. But branched out substantially. And all things that look like dinosaurs. I got my doctorate at Stony Brook University in vertebrate anatomy, and then had two-year postdoc positions at Yale University and Smithsonian before getting this job here. I have continued my work in early reptiles, particularly those that lived alongside the earliest dinosaurs, all kinds of bizarre stuff I would go into for hours if given the opportunity. But just to highlight one particular project, one of the biggest initiatives I've been involved in, we received National Science Foundation funding as a partnership with the University of Lynchburg, particularly Dr. Brooke Hyder, the Department of Environmental Sciences, in 2022. And this fully funded BMNH field trips out to Wyoming is 150 million years old Jurassic period, kind of finishing up work on two particular sites that contain the remains of sauropod dinosaurs that include long neck family, Brachiosaurus, Brontosaurus, and their ilk. It's called the Geopaths Project because basically it's targeted at this field trip in part, but mostly at providing opportunities for undergraduate students, particularly from the University of Lynchburg, to experience sort of field and museum science in a way that they otherwise. The rest of the project is focused on fall internships where they worked with museum scientists on a semester-long project focused on BMNH fossils or BMNH zoology collections, all kinds of different projects sort of tailored to their interests. Currently kind of trying to figure out what exactly the final year's projects are. Students entered over a dozen interns in this project. A lot of people never have gone west of West Virginia without this, or hadn't gone west of West Virginia without this opportunity. And now they are working together with us on all kinds of projects. Some of them have turned into conference presentations. I want to credit the student I'm proudest of from the 2022 project, worked on dinosaur skin samples. Absolutely incredible qualities, describing basically making a framework for figuring out how to actually talk about dinosaur skin from these long neck dinosaurs, because there just ain't that much of it. So I get excited. About these kinds of things, but currently, BMNH Paleo continuing. We just got done a project that involves the Smithsonian interns, and then next year we received funding from the Luck Companies Foundation, which owns the Luckstone quarries, to work on three-dimensional reconstruction scientific project. We need a tiny reptile from some of their sites in Southern Virginia, and some good content around of that. So. And that's kind of the story. Happy to take any questions if there's anything about the work, the kind of structure of the paleo lab, and the action to on a daily basis.
Questions? No questions.
Excellent things.
Yeah.
Okay, that works. Okay. Thank you for your attention.
Quick update on board member composition. As previously noted, we have board secretary's office has indicated they have strong candidates. And for those of us already serving, it's essential that we continue to identify ways that we can help advocate And it's proven beneficial with our proximity, whether that be proximity to Waynesboro, proximity to the museum here, or proximity to Richmond. Just continuing to serve and advocate, and also leveraging our personal and professional areas of expertise. So thank you for continuing to do that by the community. And update on advocacy. So we have officially submitted our funding request for the GMNH Waynesboro project and continue advocacy for appropriations to cover critical staff needs. And this would include an exhibit specialist and an advancement assistant, which would be, an example, be a maintenance officer, so we can continue to serve audiences effectively. I want to thank Lisa for joining me in Richmond a few weeks ago to visit with Secretary Madera and Deputy Director Zach Jacobs. It was great to walk in and they're like, yes, we've been to the museum, we know Joe, we know what's going on there. So we didn't have to explain any of that. And they were super receptive to our visit and just speaking to them about just looking continuing to look at staff appropriations. I don't know if you're aware, but they're combined to what's allocated. And so it doesn't fall into market value. We're really concerned about retention of great staff and the foundational knowledge that's here. And they were open to that. That has to go through their office. So we look forward to continuing conversations with them. And they were saying, the whole office saying Joe's praise. I'm just going to say that. They said he is there when they need him. And it means something because I don't know, most museums are in Richmond, close to all the things there, and we're blessed to have one here. It's not close to all the things that allows us to really reach more broadly. So it's just nice. Thank you for doing all the things you do that they recognize and appreciate. If anyone has any questions about that, Elisa, want to add anything?
No, great. It was a great meeting. They spoke very highly of Joe and very highly of the museum. It was very clear that they knew what we do and they thought what we do is important. And several of the folks we met with said they're going to come visit this fall.
Thank you. So we have a consent agenda, which we are not approving at this moment, but if there are any specific questions.
Just for a minute before
Yeah,
the
sorry.
board composition, I do want to recognize Will Clemens, I think, was actually appointed in the interim. I saw the announcement from the governor in last month, I believe, officially.
I'm sorry. Yeah, you were at the last meeting. I'm sorry. I think the official reappointment.
All worth recognizing. Glad you post your whole thing for me.
Yeah, thanks to all for serving as treasurer. Thank you. Sorry about that. Are there any questions with regard to the consent agenda? Or any of those reports? Great. Our research collections committee and let you introduce both.
I encourage everyone to read the report as always. And once again, you'll find detailed reports from all the departments indicating what their goals are upcoming and also the need for space. And this is, I think, the most important thing that we need to be working on among many other important things. That is looking at expansion for space for our collections as well as possibly exhibit space and so on. And toward that end, one of the at least temporary solutions is to take advantage of the Douglas Avenue facility, and textual plans have been presented, a draft for the first floor, and the facilities and research and collections committees will have a joint meeting on August 25th to look over those plans and determine what the next steps are. The herpetology position that's been open will be announced on the 15th of August. So your eyes open there as the candidates are filing their papers and being considered for the position. Dr. Bassett gave a fantastic overview of some of the um, ways of looking at how research here at the museum directly relates to contemporary issues, and he much more eloquently could explain it than I. Kindly said he would give a similar presentation to you all today. So, Dr. Bassett, if you would please.
Absolutely. Well, thank you, and I'm glad to be here. And just to reiterate, the purpose of my talk is really to focus in on this new strategic plan topic of ours, which is connecting our research and science to contemporary issues, things that affect people's day to day. And one way that we do that in the archaeology department is through the Cultural Heritage Monitoring Lab. For those not familiar with our lab, it's a remote sensing, so we use satellite technologies to monitor cultural heritage around the world affected by conflict and natural disaster. There's two ways that I should say more recent developments in how we're connecting to people's lives and contemporary issues, and that is the first is our reporting method. So traditionally, academic report goes through review journals, book chapters, monographs, those types of things. And it's very focused on its potential. And one way that we've been experimenting with communicating our research in the past 2 years or so, 18 months, has been through open access, or what we call rapid reports, published through the Smithsonian. And to date, over the past 18 months, we've published 36 rapid reports, and these focus on the results of our work analyses for natural disaster as well as ongoing conflict, primarily in Ukraine and Sudan. And collectively, over the past 18 months, we've received 44,772 reads of those reports as of this morning. And just to give you a sense of how that differs from our traditional way of communicating our academic reports that we have, our academic publications and journal articles and book chapters in the same time period have received a couple of hundred reads versus 44,000. And so we're clearly reaching different audiences with this reporting method. And as Dr. pointed out, it's probably a combination of not only the public, but also federal agencies, state agencies, foreign governments, but also the media. We're producing a type of information that is kind of we're filling a vacuum right now for, natural disaster response in some cases, but also it's kind of unique information that other people just haven't received. Trying to target the first 30 days after a disaster or a conflict event to report on this so that first responders can actually do something about damaged cultural heritage. One specific case study that Dr. Scheiber asked me to speak on was the request that we received following the July 4th floods in Texas. That we received a request from Heritage Emergency National Task Force, HINTF, which is co-sponsored by FEMA and the Smithsonian. And this is a group that largely of federal agencies that come together and try to figure out what's the best way we can support natural disaster events in the U.S. And so they wanted to respond to Texas. And where we could provide something new was, all right, using our remote sensing tools, or satellite sensors, let's perform what we do anywhere for, which is floodwater detection. So we can actually use the way the sun's reflecting off the water to delineate exactly the extent of floods, and then we can see what cultural heritage, archaeological sites, museums, archives, libraries, places of worship, cemeteries, what the effect is. We produce that, have about 36 sites that we are asking first responders to check on, 11 that we know for a fact are damaged traditionally. And so imagine what that does in the first 30 days, which is following life-saving activities in the location. We can actually send in our Smithsonian colleagues, our first responder museums on the ground there, which is largely volunteer-based, and they can actually go site rather than going throughout the county and say all 1,200 sites in the county. They have a short list of 11 to go to first, and then the 36 to follow, which huge time saving, which equates typically to actual better conservation of the site. We're not sitting there exposed following. So that's sort of my 2-minute spiel on how we're connecting to contemporary topics today.
Thank you. Any questions for?
I would like to say something if I may. First of all, Hayden, fantastic. This is just on the edge and so important. I want to remind everyone at the table who has a science background and is thinking about how scientific work is valued, that in archaeology and in heritage management, when you consider that 90% of the archaeological work that is done in the United States is compliance work, what that means is there is a massive gray literature. And a lot of times gray literature is not valued as much. Rapid reports, for example, you may not think that that is as scholarly as, say, a published journal article, but they are peer reviewed. So, for example, when I turn in a technical report, it is reviewed by the agency, it is reviewed by another agency, it is reviewed by colleagues. And so it's a different way of doing science, and it's a different way of evaluating, to the point where the Society for American Archaeology has recently issued guidelines on how to evaluate this work and how to make sure that it is valued the same as traditional scientific peer-reviewed work. I really want to mention that, because what Hayden is doing here, he's not only doing very, very important work just in terms of what's on the ground, but he is contributing to the way that we are reporting and evaluating scientific information. And I think that is something that really needs to be recognized. So thanks.
Yeah, thank you so much. I mean, one of the many strengths museum is that the work that's being done here is directly relevant to contemporary issues. And this is just one of several examples. And this is the kind of messaging we need to start honing when we're discussing anything we do with our partners, whether they be with the public or funding institutions or individuals, certainly legislators. As all of us are here because we believe what we do is important, but we are constantly reminded that not everybody understands what we do or why. And so making it relevant to contemporary issues is really key to our success and people supporting us. Dr. Kuiper, you're going to give us sorry. Vision moment?
This was the mission moment.
Oh. So, okay, well, thank you.
Right, but I would also like to point out that with the kind of work that CHML is doing, there is also a monetary value that can be put to it. Instead of having to inspect 1,100 sites, you're inspecting about 50 sites, and so we can actually put a tag on that. That holds true for all of the things that you were, yes, around for.
The other point about that, Joe, is that it has ramifications for the way that funding is distributed by the federal government for recovery efforts. And that has been one of the big challenges in the last few catastrophic events that we've seen in the eastern United States. FEMA and the National Park Service have funding, hopefully, to go out and evaluate, but it's very scattered. It's very hit or miss. And what Hayden is developing here is something that is going to allow localities to magnify their response, but also to be much more strategic about how they request funding. And I think that's a very important point to make. One last thing about collections, and this has to do with space. In the past week, I've been contacted by probably 10 people. I don't know why, if something was on Facebook, but wondering if there's going to be storage at the Waynesboro facility because they have things they want to donate. And so just to think about the space issue and think about how the planning is coming for space. I know there's not going to be space there, but at the same time, the opportunities for developing collections are going to expand with that facility.
Thank you for that. Consider that a heads up, so we're prepared to be able to handle it.
And I'll make sure, I know, Dr. Evans is gonna, had asked that, that I hate to share links to the Helene and the July 4th Texas, reports. I'll make sure those are here. There. So
I
now,
think the reason,
I'm sorry.
oh, sorry. I was just going to say to Carol, I think the reason for the questions you got is there was an article, I don't remember what it was in, but there's a really good article about the fact that we're moving along on our journey to get funding for Waynesboro. And probably a lot of people saw that article.
So now we're going to move to education fund programs report, and Christy, share that with us. Okay. Thank you. Bear with me just for a second. I'll get your presentation up. Thank you, ma'am. All right, well, thank you, everyone. Just a quick update from our education committee meeting this morning. So we reviewed our quarterly updates, which you'll find on the backside of the agenda. And so we were looking at April through June, which is, of course, for us, the end of the school year. And so we were noting that the museum saw an uptick in on-site visitation with school groups, teachers trying to get in that end of the school year programming. So that was very nice to see, which then, of course, will lead to future programming with them. We were also discussing our outreach education staff. So, of course, we have our education team here at Martinsville, but we have educators in the Charlottesville area and recently added a retired educator in the Waynesboro area. She's a retired teacher from Waynesboro, and we have worked with her for years on various programming, a lot of virtual programming during COVID, but we've kept that line of communication open. And so when she was approaching retirement, she reached out with the possibility of helping us meet our mission in that area. So Rosemary Wagner has just started this summer. We've worked with some Waynesboro schools already. We've also worked in the Charlottesville area, so she's starting to make those connections for this upcoming school year. So very excited about adding that. Something that we mentioned with our education committee is we are getting ready to start with our homeschool science and engineering academy. This is a yearly program that we work with homeschoolers in the area, locally and surrounding counties. Our registration goes live next week. We saw a huge surge in homeschool numbers last year. And so our homeschool academy has in the past years ran September through May with sessions held twice a month, the first and third Wednesday of each month, with one session each of those days. So we saw such an increase in interest. We have added another session. So starting in September, we will have our typical morning session, and then we will repeat that session in the afternoon. So that way, hopefully we're accommodating families' schedules, having a morning time to choose from, as well as an afternoon time to choose from, but also helping us accommodate our waiting list that we have really seen since last year. So we're very excited. That's going to go live next week. Last year, registration filled up that one day. So we'll see how, how next week goes. So excited about that. And then this past week, we wrapped up with our summer camps
And so I just wanted to share a few images and description of our summer camp. So summertime keeps us busy with various programs, but we really enjoy having public summer camps. So this year we had 4 camps run by Jordan and Annabelle, as you can see in the images right there. And so these are open to the public. It's registration based. There's small fees for the camps, but due to local organizations, local donors, and sponsors, we're able to offer scholarships for the summer camps. And that's great for our area, for parents that are interested in having their kids in a summer camp learning program, but need some assistance. And so this summer, we were able to partner with some of our local groups. We partnered with our Master Naturalist chapter. We have a local chapter here. And so we had guest presenters that came in and did some programming with us. We also worked with Berrystone State Park as well as Philpott Lake, their Army Corps of Engineers, to take the students to both of their locations. On the left, you can see the campers. We're looking for macroinvertebrates in their stream area, which was great because that was one of the weeks that it was in the 90s. And so it was, yeah, that was very welcome activity. The one on the right, it's kind of hard to see. We were at Ferrystone, and the kids are working with rangers to identify animal tracks. And so we were looking at animal tracks and even found some scat too, which the kids absolutely love. And then we were also working with Master Naturalists on the importance of monarchs. And so we had one of our local chapter members conduct a presentation on monarchs, and then the students actually planted some milkweed in the Tobin monarch weed station outside in between us and the church next door. And we try to have outdoor activities with all of the camps, weather permitting. It's wonderful that we have J. Frank Wilson Park right behind the museum. So daily we take the children down to the park, weather permitting, of course, for fun activities, scavenger hunts, things like that. The summer camps, the students were doing nature journaling. And so at set times, we would have them break out their journals and sketch some things, make observations, have some of that, just keeping a memento for their camp. Utilizing sun prints. The middle picture is creating sun prints with turmeric and plants. So bringing in some chemistry with them. Can't have summer camps without experiments. You have to have messy experiments. And so several of our camps, the campers were able to create oobleck, which I'm sure you're all familiar with, the cornstarch and water. But they also experimented with using just regular tap water versus tonic water, which contains quinine, which will glow under UV light. So it kind of gives off that purple tint that you're seeing in the photos. So comparison for the campers, as well as the elephant toothpaste that's in the middle image. If you're not familiar with elephant toothpaste, that's the yeast and water soap, and it creates an exothermic reaction, which the kids love. A little bit of heat's produced, and of course the foam. So lots of mess with summer camps, as well as engineering projects. So we have quite a few engineering challenges, which with a lot of them, they were given limitations on supplies that they could use, and have to see if they could meet the objective. Which of course then you also realize with the kids that they're realizing that it's teamwork involved, and not just the meeting the end goal. It's having to work together as a team, plan out their activity, But lots of fun with engineering design. We were so excited to be able to use the Gene S. Adams Education Pavilion. This last week of camp, they held several of their activities out on the pavilion. One of them was creating a worm-based compost bin. So they absolutely love that. They all named their worms and added them to the bin. So great being able to utilize that pavilion and have some outdoor classroom time. We also were utilizing the greenhouses with the summer camps. You may have noticed those out in the parking lot. So each summer camp, they utilize the greenhouse, growing, planting seeds, growing various things. With the summer camps, they basically took their material home with them. We have in place plans for the greenhouse usage for the school year with various projects that will continue through the school year to see long-term growth. We will also be utilizing the compost material with the greenhouse. And something that we're really excited about, Dr. Bassett, Dan, and several of us met this past week about projects, upcoming projects for the greenhouse. So lots of up and coming ideas with the greenhouses.
Where did they come from?
They were actually from a grant.
So a project grant from
Yeah.
Pharmaceutical?
Yes. And lastly, I just wanted to mention all of our summer camps, we really want to incorporate the whole museum. And so they're able to visit the exhibit areas, and also research and collections staff. They're wonderful to work with the campers and kind of do a behind the scenes with the students, whether it's learning about mammals specific to Virginia, collections care, the live invertebrates, or checking out the massive snake skin and learning about reptiles. So it was a great summer. We literally just finished summer camp yesterday. So it was a fun time, but just wanted to share a little bit with everyone. But if anyone has any questions about any of the programming with education, I'd be happy to answer any questions.
Christy, can you walk through the funding model that we use for our offsite educators in Charlottesville and Waynesboro?
Yes. So with our outreach staff in Charlottesville and Waynesboro, they are program based. So they are part-time, but also program based. So their salary comes from programs. So we work with various groups to provide scholarships, and so then we're able to help offset their salary with that. And so work with Ryan and others here for local companies, organizations that provide funding not only for summer camps, but our outreach and museum-based programs too. But then that can also go towards salaries.
So it's kind of a break even. So, as they call Christie's scheduled programs, when I say they, the schools scheduled programs, and it can be other organizations as well. The teachers will bring their hands-on teaching kits to the classrooms. They get their salary paid through that, with any upgrades or updates to the kits come out of that use of supplies comes out of that fee, as well as travel. So it's not a moneymaker for it, but it's certainly a sustainable way to broaden our impact.
You mentioned the increase in demand from homeschool communities.
Yes.
That's great. How much does a homeschool student have to pay to participate?
Yes. So it is $10 per student per session.
Okay.
So still a small fee. We offered scholarships for homeschool families this year. We offered 5 full year scholarships for them. So it was $180 to cover the 18 sessions. And so we had a handful apply for that. But minimal $10 fee. With the registration, they can select individual sessions or they can book the entire year of programming, and we offer a discounted rate for that if they do the whole year.
Any thoughts, because there is a multiple community in the way, any thoughts about their, the needs through new education?
Oh, that's a great idea. We could definitely talk to Rosemary about that, see how feasible that could be.
Is there a whole space up there?
I believe there is, yeah.
That'd be-
Yeah, I'll reach out to her. Great idea. Thank you.
You said it was spring, you said mass states again. Did you zoom in on that?
It's like several cabinets long.
All right.
Yeah. That's it.
Very correct.
Oh, okay. Yes. Correct. Yeah. So not one of our.
Not yet.
Not yet. Thank you so much. Okay, so, we are going to take a break to visit, the Petra exhibit. And also today's, museum admission is free because it will celebrate our reaccreditation. So we're gonna take, let's see, I would say we'll be back at approximately 11. Folks are welcome to join us that are here, the public, you're welcome to attend. We will not be discussing any business, and plan to be back at 11. Joe, could you set the stage for the Petra exhibit?
Sure. So in celebration of AM accreditation, we put a little extra stuff out in the galleries that you'll see, so you'll see that when we'll go through it. But what we wanted to do with Petra is not just celebrate our accreditations for the first time, keep it on public display. We brought behind the scenes tours to see bits that were being prepped, but that's been it. So this is the first time ever. This is our experiment to do an upcharged special experience, to rub elbows with the curators, to see a special specimen for the first time and so forth. And yesterday was the first day, Friday of next week will be the last day, and we'll be recording who they are, so any members or not members. They get museums without walls, museums for all program. We'll have their zip codes and so forth. So we're gonna the success of the pilot project is offering it, gathering data and learning, right? And all proceeds from the $7 upcharge to visit Petra will go to support paleontology. So when we go there, have no idea if there will already be people there. There's already people engaging. We'll go in a couple at a time to check out the experience, and we'll let the families have their time. And if there's a break in that, we can maybe be a little more intensive. So let's take a slow walk. We're going down the hall of biodiversity, where all the shoulder mounts about animals are. It's the end of the hall right there. All right, so. 150th meeting. Go with 5-5 the gap. Very impressive.
Oh, I was like,
How's everybody? Everybody, take care.
Yep, everyone's like, yeah. That's right. Okay. Yeah. Be here. This is my conference. Not at all.
for the opportunity to walk through and take a break. The Petra exhibit is over through the 15th. Okay. And we will, the advantage of having a consent agenda allows to do things like this. So I hope that was interesting for everyone. And as mentioned, we have thank you notes to be read briefly. And then also thanks the note that are draft you a reminder of your membership status, giving, which can be done online. It's always beneficial. We have to state where we're seeking grants. We have a form information and membership is great as well. Okay, so I'm going to judge report.
Okay, I'm going to take the liberty of starting things with a discussion for the strategic plan. You see the top walls 2025 and 2030. So this is just a brief, high-level look at the topics that have kind of percolated to the surface of importance for this institution going forward. So what we'll do is we'll walk through those, and then the objective then will be to share proposed measures for these objectives and goals with the strategic planning committee, and then get a preliminary draft back to the board before the November board meeting, and then of course be open to modification and hopefully form for that. And just so everyone knows, kind of already mentioned to tie these two things together, we will need a form to approve our strategic plan, but our past experience is that one, no governor leaves an office with seats unfilled. So Governor Youngkin will fill his position, I'm sure of that. So we do have the 4 openings. Whether they are filled in time for the November board meeting is just up in the air. Past experience is the closer you get to the end of December, likely of having very similar the same board makeup. So for our strategic plan, we can just subdivide it into 2 broad categories: mission and one of having great sustainable impact to the communities we serve. We start with achieving mission. If you read through our AAM reaccreditation document, Douglas Abbott has mentioned multiple times. We, of course, fully intend to follow through with it. And the facilities committee, I believe, has asked us to share the documents provided by our architect forward. We will also, doing so here at Starling Avenue and at Douglas Avenue, be determining future space needs, or really I should say future space allocation and current space needs. As discussed during the research and collections report, the connection to contemporary needs and issues in a rapidly changing world is a theme that came up during our strategic planning session. And the CHML update is something that really speaks to that. Also, keep in mind that we are working on the next 2 exhibits that will be done simultaneously, one from the Smithsonian called Waterways, which will substitute for the dinosaur exhibit. The other half of that gallery, we are currently, with all plans fall in place, we're going to be doing something on forest evolution. And as such, with expert and research associate, Dr. Brady Moore, and he is securing for us a horse skeleton, fossil skeleton from Idaho, that was at the Smithsonian and mounted there. When they updated their mammal hall, they decommissioned that exhibit, but it is still, it still has the armature to go with the fossils. So the objective will be to display that, break out some of our own materials from archaeology and paleontology that's horse related, and connect that to the changing environment. So that would be just one example of how we do that. One thing that will be ongoing, the identification of strategic uses for the new GNS Adams Education Pavilion. Obviously, the Douglas Avenues, you see, that we're trying something new with this upcharge special experience. So we're looking for strategic and creative ways in which we can serve the public and use the space that we have available. With achieving mission, we will be celebrating VA 250, our donor who provided funds to purchase Thomas Jefferson first edition on the state of Virginia, and did a follow-up gift to help support the actual exhibition. So that was very nice. As mentioned previously, we have periodically had traveling exhibits. So we created an exhibit in-house and modified it in such a way that it can be created, and we have a network of several museums that we frequently rent to. And so over the next 5 years, we'll develop 3 new traveling exhibits. And one thing that, again, a theme that continuously comes back is to develop the idea of storytelling in our outreach and our connections of research and connection education exhibits to our community interactions. So the idea of storytelling is going to become part of the BMH lexicon. And lastly, under achieving mission, obviously we're going to continue on with the progress of BMH Waynesboro, including the trailer. We want to enhance our connections to Wilson Park, as Christy talked about, and we will continue our discussion and looking at the feasibility of a future canopy walk and perhaps other amenities that connect us directly with that facility. And then we have, of course, talked about initial concept of a new wing here at BMH that supports expanded exhibits, collections, storage capacity, and other dedicated spaces. The staff had a lively meeting here in the lecture hall where all kinds of ideas were tossed out there. And we are developing the attitude that we will develop ideas to present to board trustees from the inside, not just say, oh, we're going to build, 20,000 square feet, and then what do we fill it with, right? What we build the house, right? So we'll be providing this opportunity that nation that maybe this is that's taken on by the facilities committee, but folks who want to be strongly involved in the development of that can then participate either as an invitation onto the facilities committee as an officio member or some other mechanism. So we'll start to tackle that in 2026. If we shift to great sustainable impact, obviously we're going to be working with both boards to solicit new supporters and generate increased appropriation and work on our endowment. Incidentally, of course, we had the celebration of reaching $1 million in the endowment. Fortunately, it did not drop. We do have very wise investments, and it has actually grown from there. So it is continuing to grow. We actually have 2 gifts that are incoming. The time frame is murky, but they will be incoming, Brian, I would say somewhat shortly. So we don't know anything about the amount or anything, but we are growing the endowment through added gifts as well as wise investment. The next point about addressing concerns in our AAM reaccreditation report, I have a slide specific to that. And then lastly, your homework is to identify mechanisms for closer collaboration with the foundation. Unfortunately, our rep for the foundation obviously couldn't make it today, but there may be other ways in which we have better strategic engagement to mesh the operation of both boards together. And lastly, for great sustainable impact, we're going to continue our festival model that has been very effective. Brian's going to give a report on that here momentarily. We'll identify core funding opportunities for Young Explorer Center. Going the route of the congressionally directed spending is not bearing fruit. It is a tough environment, so we need to have discussion with how to move that project forward. I think that will be a key part of our plan. And then, of course, we're going to put some verbiage in there about staff recruitment and retention. The professional development has been very well received, and the foundation this fiscal year is supporting professional development opportunities for our staff, and we'll continue to identify new position needs, which then links back to the idea of looking at increased appropriation, perhaps for new staffers, as was previously mentioned. So next steps, like I said, we will take a summary of this presentation and overlay quantitative measures for each goal. We'll overlay a timeline for the 5-year duration, and we will work with the strategic planning committee to do that and have a draft ready for you in advance of the next board meeting. And we'll have that ready to distribute at the end of the calendar year. So that last slide, which somehow didn't make it, where did it go? There it is. All right, so let me kind of push that to the side. Be right back. For those of you who've been on board for a while, I did communicate with Chesbro, who helped us with this current strategic plan we just finished. And both of us agree that we cannot believe it's already been 5 years. So this 2030 goal, it sounds like it's pretty much forever away, but it is not. So I broke the accreditation report areas of concern, which every report has, into two sections. One is day-to-day operations, and one is topics that should go into the strategic plan itself. So for day-to-day, provide structure for education program evaluation. We do have evaluations, but it's not very formal. I've already charged Christy to begin work with the education committee to identify any needs that come out of those evaluations and how to formally address them. So I think that would be a good day-to-day operation solution for that, and do a better job at evaluating the efficacy of our programming. Address low salaries for educators. Fortunately, we've already done that. Possible temporary adjustment to collections donation policy. That was a recommendation that came about with the idea that if we have large collections and we're tight in space, maybe we need to consider not necessarily saying yes to everything. We don't. There are collections that we say are not appropriate for us, or whatever. But that is a recommendation. So that's something that we'll toss to the research and collecting committee. Yes, sir.
If it's not appropriate for the museum on any level, why does that need an adjustment for policy? Curators decide whether you're going to take something on or not.
I agree. I don't think this really needs to have any modification, simply because the curators are good about accepting or not accepting selected items. Right. I still think it's worth airing this out publicly. Of course.
How should work? Is it complete review of collection donations, or is it specific to the department or something?
It's specific to a particular curator department, and then they will make the recommendation as to accession or not accession. Some of the things that are not accession can go into city teaching collections and so forth. But most of the time, it's not controversial at all. And I was looking to final approval just to make sure that there is no ethical situation present. And it's a very straightforward process. And just to tell a potential donor of collections, we just don't have the capacity right now. In 2 years or so, we will have added capacity and we can reevaluate that. Does that cause the situation where we may lose out on future collections? Sure does, right? But on the other hand, we can't necessarily take a collection we can't care for. So, and I'm happy to have that as a continual discussion while we're in the Douglas Avenue rehab phase. In the report, I think this is easily solved to address collections lacking a designated curator, and specifically that would be our geology collections and our invertebrate paleontology collections. So those are two substantial collections. Right now, Dr. Maddie Bassett is our kind of de facto person in charge of the geology collection, while Dr. Pritchard is the de facto person in charge of the invertebrate paleontology. However, we also have research associates that are active in both of these collections. And as such, even though that was not something that was really clear to the visiting committee, I think just being more open about the fact that we do have experts that work in these collections on a regular basis. For instance, Dr. Schmachtenberg is one of our research associates, just finished a rather large project of curating and cataloging all of our trilobite. So even though we don't have a designated curator, progress is still made in that collection. This was an interesting one. The second to last bullet under day-to-day, possibly work with a destination management company to enhance the idea that we can bring more people farther away to Martinsville. So a destination management company would be one of these companies that does bus tours. So quick preliminary look, you can find those in places like Raleigh, Durham, and Richmond. Not so much the south side, but it doesn't preclude us from approaching other companies to see if it would be a proper destination. And think about it, if you had some kind of specialized science tour, where you have Danville Science Center, Virginia Museum of Natural History, Science Museum of Western Virginia, the Virginia Tech Museum of Geological Sciences, the Radford Museum of Earth Sciences, you have a pretty expansive opportunity. So I think it's worth discussion. I've charged Zach Ryder and Ryan Barber with making contact with those folks, so we'll begin a discussion on that shortly. And then, of course, diversification of revenues will always look for that. If we move to strategic plan, as we've already discussed, one that kept coming up was Douglas Avenue. And so we do owe a 5-year progress report, which we'd be happy to provide. I really hope it's all done by then, right? So otherwise that's going to be, there's been some kind of large stumbling block, but we're not anticipating that. So that should be no problem. And I included diversification of revenues as part of the strategic plan as well. And I think we can pepper that into the goals and objectives we previously discussed. So I know I just talked a lot at you. We've been kind of talking about this over the past 15 or 16 months or so. But I'll open up to any discussion if there's anything that you feel is missing in there. I will say, as far as the achieving mission, having great sustainable impact, that's a pretty packed strategic plan. I don't know that we'll have the capacity to add, or we can substitute, or perhaps repackage the way we approach some projects. That's the word.
I hope that going forward, that all the talk about Douglas Avenue in terms of collections and storage is viewed as at least temporary, because I don't think it's a long-term solution to our challenge. It may help us in some departments, but not all. So I think the final document is important that we need to be looking beyond Douglas Avenue for long-term collection storage. I don't doubt that it's going to be of great value in the short run. I also understand that a lot of these short run plans end up being long-term plans, but still, not all collections are appropriate for that space. So we really need to be looking at explicitly looking at expanding either the footprint here or looking at another alternative that's more than 5 years out. I understand that, but I think we need to start talking about it sooner than later, be explicit about it, or constantly exploring that possibility.
And like I said, it will be in there, and collection space was heavily discussed by the staff, so they already have big plans.
I know, I'm starting like
Right. And we do around here, and I know the staff gets here to be talking about this, but we have the attitude that temporary solutions become permanent problems. So we try really hard to keep that at the forefront. Just because we put a Band-Aid on something does not mean we can take it off the shelf. So thank you, Mark.
Yeah.
Appreciate it.
Thank you.
Anything else anyone would like to bring up about the strategic plan? Please feel free, when we share the document, I want people to look hard at the timelines and also look at the measures. Sometimes when you have people like us doing things, we get so close to it that having an outside perspective is invaluable, and you would not be hurting our feelings if there are things such as measures or timelines to be modified. So you should be seeing that in your inbox within the next month or two. Welcome to it.
Is there a date to approve that? I know we intend to approve it. We have a deadline that it needs to be approved.
No, honestly, it's all self-imposed. We just don't want it to languish, and to be blunt, to be able to say our strategic plan is 2025 to 2030 rings a lot better than 2026 to 2031. So I don't think we're rushing it, but marketing is everything. So a couple other quick things, and I'm going to ask Brian to go through the advancement report. The notes on the state of Virginia exhibit, as well as the members event in February, are upcoming. We're going to make sure you're aware of all those. Appreciate if you come, if possible, to attend that. It has been honestly, it's been positive for us. One, we've had to spread our wings a little bit. Two, I think we're going to get different audiences. As we informally call our in-house efforts TJ26, we're all about Thomas Jefferson. But I think there'll be people who will be drawn to that. We'll of course have we'll have that focus on his contributions to the natural sciences. And lastly, I'll point out we're going to have a cool book on sale, In Pursuit of Jefferson. That's a partial title. But this is something we'll have on sale in the stores. So you can please pick up a copy. And I appreciate Lisa Tart pointing that out. So I just want to call out a couple of people. I've gotten so many messages from miscellaneous people who speak highly of our box office staff about how they're helpful, they're engaging and stuff. And this is one thing we've always talked about, the fact that we recognize we're not anytime soon going to be fielding the largest attendance over a period of a year of museums, right? Greensboro Science Center gets 600,000 a year, right? We're not going to get handed anytime soon. But all that said, we can touch every visitor that comes through, and that's one thing we talk about a lot over in the box office. So as you pass by, give him a thanks or a high five or something. It would be very nice. I also have to call out Tim King and the Village Grounds team because not only they just responsive and they have a lot to do, but when we did the pavilion ribbon cutting, they built the day before a platform for the speakers because we felt the stage was kind of ostentatious. Derek built the display box, the Petra that you just saw, so that was made from scratch. Then one day they're up there on ladders assembling the Mammoth, which I think comes up on the slideshow here. Tim King had to oversee the pavilion construction and so forth, and working with contractors is never an easy thing. He also had to oversee Douglas Avenue. We have a great relationship with that architect, but still, another thing on his responsibility, and and just something as simple as the driveway paving, repaving it. There were some problems with it, so he had to deal with that and ensure that the work was being done. And then the team had to go find a used hood for the Subaru field car that we have to do the foundation. One of the former curators crumbled it. But the car is operational, but the next thing you know, they're out there with a hood, right? So they went from Mammoth to hood, to speaking platform to Petra, and so we're always doing those things, right? And I also want to do I know she's still new to the team, but want to thank Jennifer for all she's been doing, because on top of everything she's doing for you and us, and trying to keep me straight, she's doing a good job. She's coordinating, she really is coordinating, despite what she said, the National History of Chocolate event in October, the Genus Adams Education ribbon cutting. She had to take care of that, and then of course everything she does with board schedules, committee meetings, and even last night's meeting. So Jennifer, thank you. Yes. So can I turn it over to you for an answer report, please?
I just want to add very quickly, I was here kind of incognito last Saturday. I didn't have my badge or anything. I came with family, and I was thoroughly impressed with the box office staff. They were very welcoming, knew the museum exhibits back and forth. They were really good about recommending different things and different activities, and it was great. I've never seen the experience of the museum from that side. I was walking with a badge, and Dr. Evans, but she had no clue who I was. It was just a member, and it was great. I was really impressed.
If I could underscore that, Mark, when I came here for an interview, something like 16 years ago, I got here a day early, and it was unbeknownst to anybody, and I came and walked through just to see what the operation was like, and I found the same exact thing. So even though I think there's two employees.
There were two people there.
Well, there's two employees that were here when I visited 16 years ago and are still here, Tisha and Kenneth. Right? Anybody else? Yes. Everybody else is new, but the tradition continues.
Yeah.
So and that also speaks highly of Robbie Hendricks and the work that he's doing, but also his predecessor, and so a long tradition. So thank you.
Yeah, so I won't go through every element of the financial report, but obviously big picture numbers. This is covering the last quarter of fiscal year 25. So some of the big highlights, we talked about a lot of it, but we tracked a number of donations, so not just dollar amounts, but number of gifts, and that was record last year. So fiscal year 25 was record number of gifts, beating the previous year, which was a record by just over 2.5%. So that's great. That's everything from large grants, partnerships, related to memberships. So they're all. So very proud of that. Visitation's up slightly over last year. So what we're seeing is a continued increase post-pandemic. We're not seeing huge spikes and drops, which is good. So we're festivals are part of that. Obviously, Christian programs, everything we do. Also endowment. So Joe talked about that. From June 30th, 2024 to June 30th, 2025, the endowment's up over 20%. So 20.2%. Combination of growth and new gifts, but really strong growth, over 8% growth just with the presidents. So proud of that. We have a good partnership with the endowment manager, foundation board, obviously helping to lead that, but also the work that we do. So one example of that was one of the gifts we got in the last 5 years, Carter Estate. In the notes that on our donor database, she was a huge fan of Think Fresh 30 years ago. So that was what she was a fan of, and that's why she started giving. So that sort of work paid off 30 years later. So the work that the curators are doing now, Chris is doing now. Don't always see it every day, but it is out there. So several grants and partnerships process. Adam talked about the recent Blackstone Clark Companies Foundation grants, so we're proud of that. Adam, one that we're going to find out next week. We know we're going to get the grant, but it's not public until next week. It's the Virginia Tourism Corporation VA 250 program, so Joe talked about that. They will announce those probably Friday next week. We're going to get to. That's really exciting. That'll go towards stuff. That great news. Got several grants in process. So we've got a $100,000 request to the Central Shenandoah Planning District Commission for a watershed wellness grant program for nature-based stormwater management planning. So that's going to be in support of the PMA plan for a branch campus. Funding is specifically for planning. They recognize we're not going to build it next year. So find out any day because it's coming week and fall. Sounds like really good feedback so far. So, more to come on that. Talked about Dino Festival. Everybody got the summary, so really proud of that. We had over 4,100 visitors. Record gross revenues overall. That's admissions, tour, corporate partnerships, new memberships. All of that was best ever. So, and good feedback. I mean, it was really hot, and visitors were really tired, and they had to all walk past admissions all the way out. So we braced ourselves, and it was just overwhelmingly positive feedback. Thanks to the staff for doing what we did. They were concerned about our health to make sure no, very good, very good. Last thing I'll mention is on the report. It's at the very last. We've got this board and committee service. Pretty much once a year, we'll do a summary of staff. Things that staff do is sort of similar to their job. And it's just not here about cross departments, staffing levels, experts. And yeah, happy to answer any questions. There's a lot more detail on the report. I encourage you.
Other metrics and visitors.
That would be advanced.
Yeah. You can see that there's spreadsheet. It's usually at the end of our report. Yes.
Yeah. Christie's good obviously tracks.
You remember ballpark or the annual number? How many?
So I can certainly get the information.
Yeah, and
yeah, no, we'll see it. Okay. Visiting researchers for the last quarter. Yeah, it's on. And then the other numbers, which I don't know how accurate they are, was guilty. Like I gave for the global business person back in collections, right? She didn't get counted, right? It's just one of those things where she called up and said, "I can stop by today." I said, "Yeah, come by." Gave before. So the numbers that you see in terms of say public or community members or what have you, getting tours through the collections and stuff, probably very underrepresented.
yeah, the thing came up in our conversation about the facility that Avenue whether or not provide research today.
Right. Questions? Richard Bob. Yeah, he did.
There's a lot of this.
Did you want to mention the upcoming events or?
Yeah, so we've got
What they,
October 4th is the National Street Fair, so they've got tickets available online. If you go to the website, it's right there on the sort of the main page, line of the slideshow. Click on that. We've got 50 slots. I think we've got 21 forms, so they're available. So that's fully responsible. Some booze is coming up. It's a festival that's October 26th. So that's going to be at 10 a.m. to 4 p.m. It's going to be the 4 p.m. to 10 p.m. That'll be inside out.
we are taking up.
I think we are Marshall Point, who's going to do essentially a compliment to Ariana Coons. What was that, a year ago, maybe 2 years ago now, she gave one, but it's going to be more collection things. So people, the idea is people will understand better how a collection for things like amphibian conservation. Before I wrap up my report, I just want to thank Melanie and Art for their time with them spent at Dinosaur Fest. You were there. I think both of you were there almost the entire time, not the entire time. Art had to consider the staff and service hundreds of people, and that, well, I volunteered, but hey, but anyways, it's a tough environment. It's something that we've been trying, and it's not optimal. The hallway leading to the dry biology storage with the large bay door is not meant for crowds, right? And it becomes difficult because we don't have pedestrian police telling you have to just go and how people organize themselves.
Which they did.
Yeah, yeah. But sometimes it got a little different. Like sometimes crowds got worked and whatnot, but it just is what it is. Really appreciate that. And I also want to thank Lauren and Melanie for attending the Gina Adams Education Pavilion ribbon cutting. It was really an amazing sight to see Melanie cut the ribbon ceremonially with a Paleolithic knife, right? Wow, Lauren snuck the scissors in there and it worked like a charm. Thank you very much. We couldn't find one.
We did. Ribbon was good. All right. So Jennifer will follow up so that we can meet virtually to take care of the action items so that we don't have those lingering until November. So if you could just respond, there will probably be a number of dates and times. It should not take more than an hour, but if you could just put every date and time you're available so that we can have a form, that would be great virtually. And I hope you heard the common theme that I heard, and that theme is that great customer service and experience matters. The quality of what goes on here, the quality of the Dino Festival, and I know Joe referenced, museums. If we had had 10,000 folks, it wouldn't have worked. People would have been upset because they would have been in long lines. They would have not got to see things. So there is a level of quality that comes from attention to detail in your audience. So that's really our brand. And it's great to go to Richmond, to go to the front office without a badge and know that the brand that we represent means something that matters and it's positive. So thank you for everyone that made that happen on the staff side and just for sharing your personal anecdotes. I don't have anything else. Jennifer? I get that. We're having lunch? Okay. And of course, the museum is open. And so feel free to spend more time there. Thank you, Lisa, Carol, and Emma for joining us online virtually. And I hope your long stories become short stories. And I will have this meeting will be adjourned. It's 11:38 a.m.
Thank you.